Hey, what's up, everybody? Time for another game theory video. Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel. If you want to give me an early birthday present link, super like, whatever, I'm going to shill it. I'm going to shill it for a couple weeks, and then I'm going to be older and I'm going to kill myself. I shouldn't laugh about that. Okay. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about more of the homogenization of Street Fighter. And, I made that recent video talking about, I can't believe fucking Max was talking about that traditionally moves did not whip you in Street Fighter. And I've also been getting comments that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So let's look at this because, again, it just shows the example of how Footsies has changed in Street Fighter and how these games are more homogenized, right? So let's just go over some of these clips I got, right? Okay, so you think that Street Fighter has normally had moves that they don't whiff you. They almost always hit. What game are you playing? Generally speaking, most moves, we show Guile's stand short, which is a luxury, and that's something I want to focus on. An attack that can hit you ducking in traditional Street Fighter, in most Street Fighters until, newer generation of games, if an attack can hit you ducking, that is a luxury for your character. That is almost, let's call it for sake of argument to make it sound special, a special move, right? Not all characters had attacks that could hit you ducking unless they were like actually ducking themselves or like a proximity normal, which we'll get into that as well, right? So we can see, look at that. Even Guile's stand forward, his hop kick. Do you know that even though it could go over lows up to turbo, it could not hit you ducking? Think about that for a second. Again, we'll look at Ryu right here. Well, geez, well, that was a close stand fierce, right? Proximity north, proximity roundhouse. But generally speaking, guess what? You don't hit characters ducking in old school Street Fighter, right? That's why not only do we have these like shorts and stuff like that, like, and again, I've talked about this in depth, the Footsies with Ryu duck short, because that actually hits you ducking, dude. Characters like Zangief being able to walk forward with a actual stand move that actually hits you ducking is a luxury. Most characters don't get to walk forward and continue to attack you in old school Street Fighter. That's not the way that the game works, right? Character like Bison can do it. That's special for him, dude. I think I show E Honda here. E Honda having attacks that you can't just duck to get out of is special. So I can't believe I even got more comments like saying like, you know what you're talking about? Max knows everything about Street Fighter. They didn't say Max knows everything about Street Fighter, but they tried to say moves normally don't whiff you in Street Fighter. Moves almost always hit you ducking. No, they fucking don't. Are you a fucking idiot? It's incredible to me that people will believe this fucking garbage just because, oh, this person has a lot of views. Or like I said, one of the first things I realized when I got into video games, when I first had entered tournaments as a kid, is I realized most of the people that talked about video games were not good. They had no idea what the fuck they were talking about. And most of the people were not actually good at games. And it was very rare to meet one who could do either or, let alone do both. Like, I mean, to do both would be fucking crazy, right? So we have, say, Guile. What did they do in Super Turbo? They actually made the Sabat kick hit you low. And think about what a crazy change that is for just Footsies in general, right? Because if we're thinking about, let's say, traditionally, look at that. We got Ryu's duck short, right? What do you think about Footsies with Ryu, right? We think about, duck short counters. It's basically an invincible force field. Even in Super Turbo, although the priority hitboxes, hurtboxes are not as good, speed is not as good, it's still a powerful tool, right? So we can check with duck short, we can try to sweep limbs, or we can fireball limbs, whatever, because they move back the hurtbox in fucking Championship Edition and then blah, blah, blah. But now let's think about this on a deeper level. Well, guess what? Now Guile doesn't have to worry about that. Because besides the inverted funky kick, right? You know what I mean? You've actually given another character a move that not only can go over lows, he can walk forward and still hit you while you're ducking. Do you realize this is a fucking incredible thing in Street Fighter? This is not a normal thing in Street Fighter up to this point, okay? Moves normally don't hit you ducking in Street Fighter back in the day, okay? So, again, go over low right there. And to even try to check this move in Super Turbo, I show an example here, although this is, and not exactly super realistic, but even checking the move is pretty difficult. But, you know, and then I think I showed stand roundhouse. Stand roundhouse, another move that hits you ducking. Wow. Now this move you can check a little bit easier, right? But think about what a kind of like crazy fundamental change to Footsies that is, right? About the progression of Street Fighter that happened in Super Turbo. Generally speaking, and even in Super Turbo, there's not a lot of moves that hit you ducking, but there are more in the game, right? If you think about just Street Fighter changing like this, dude, it's crazy, right? Because again, moves normally don't hit you ducking. And now you've given a character a move that not only hits you ducking, if he tries to do his normally powerful ducking attack, he gets beat, right? So now I have to use other moves to try to combat you. Like Footsies, the ground game is evolving in fucking Super Turbo, right? And then we have things like this. Guess what? Why were overheads such a crazy thing? Did you know overheads were not in? This is crazy. You know, maybe I guess people don't remember. Yes, I'm not wearing pants again. Super like if I'm not wearing pants. I do have an OnlyFans. I don't jack off, but I will show you my dick, even if you're a gay dude, if you pay me. So think about how crazy overheads are. Guess what? What did that do? Because if you think about old school Street Fighter, dude, guess what? What's to really like stop you from ducking, right? You got to worry about throws, and that's about it because there's no overheads, right? Again, think about just think about just the simple idea of back or down back, right? In terms of ground game and everything. And then Super Turbo added overheads. Crazy. Another example, if you see here, just to show what a luxury it is to have an attack that hits you ducking. Did you know that even up to Super, Zangief's stand medium kick did not hit you ducking? Do you see this? It doesn't hit you. Now, once you came to Super, he had the luxury of having a stand medium kick that actually hit you ducking. But guess what? Because of different hurt boxes and everything like that, he still couldn't hit characters with a low duck, right? Now, once they came to Super Turbo, they moved down the hurt box, so then you could actually attack some of these characters that had lower blocks. But guess what? Do you see how crazy that is? That you have motherfuckers that try to pretend they know what the fuck they're talking about Street Fighter, and you got fucking retarded people in my comments saying, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and moves normally don't whiff you in Street Fighter, and moves have always hit you no matter what when you're ducking. Well, what fucking Street Fighter are you playing, right? And this also gets into what I've talked about before, that why proximity normals are important, because, and maybe this is why people, you know, they don't actually know what the fuck they're talking about. Maybe they forget that in games like Alpha 1 and Alpha 2, guess what? They got rid of proximity normals. And what happened? What was one of the problems with Alpha 2 and Alpha 1? More so Alpha 2 probably, but, you know, you had characters that because you don't have these proximity normals, you're giving characters that traditionally cannot poke you while walking forward. They're getting, like, say, Ken stand fierce and Ken stand roundhouse, right? Or Ken and Ryu's stand fierce and close fierce in old school Street Fighter, right? The uppercut, guess what? That was their stand medium punch. And it's fast and it's cancelable. So it's no surprise that when you play a game like Alpha 2 or Alpha 1 and you see a character doing a stand strong with Ken, you're like, whoa, this is a super powerful normal for a Shoto to have, right? You know what I mean? And it also goes to show, talking about how characters are becoming different shades of gray. These characters are not supposed to be able to poke like that. Look at a game like Alpha 3. Generally speaking, is it Vism? Is it Vism? I think they call it Vism in Alpha 3, right? Whatever the custom combo groove is, right? Custom combo-ism in Alpha 3, right? Think about that. At a lower level, maybe you think that it's worse that you have to press back to do close normals or whatever like that. But then once you actually play the game, is it not a fact that in Alpha 3, guess what? What are a lot of the most powerful normals in the game? You start seeing characters doing their far stand normal, which is normally their proximity normal, far away from the character. Because it's faster. It's cancelable. This character is not supposed to have this kind of move from this kind of range, right? It's homogenizing the cast. The casts are becoming different shades of gray, right? I mean, that's why you need proximity normals, because you start having these moves that overlap and they function in multiple ways, right? It makes characters less special when every character can poke you in the same fashion or a similar fashion, let's say. right? And again, you know, you might say, Clayton, well, games got to progress, and I do. I agree that games got to progress, right? I'm not totally against, you know, like I said, I just think moves like Ryu's hop kick, I think it's interesting, but a move like Ryu's hop kick, like I said, it's a move that has to be treated with a lot of care because you want Ryu to be the fireball dragon punch archetype. If you give him too many good poking attacks, you have to take away from his fireball dragon punch trap kind of stuff. You know what I mean? These sort of core attributes can't be as strong because you can't give every character everything. And because that's basically what they want to do with every game now. Like, oh, my character has this kind of version of this move. My character has this kind of version of this move, right? It's the homogenization of fucking fighting games, right? And now you got games like fucking Street Fighter 6. You don't even have to fucking touch the character with the poke. The fucking animators are apparently too late. Akuma stand roundhouse. He's not even attacking the guy. And the guy can just, it hits him while he's ducking. Why? That shit is retarded. It's stupid. And if you're going to have a character like that, have that move, you have to tone down other parts of his toolkit. Because it's just, I don't know. It's disturbing how retarded some of you motherfuckers are that you can't talk about a video game in any sort of intelligent fashion. I'm joking about gay guys want me to jack off on OnlyFans, right? And I still am capable of having a more intelligent conversation about a video game that I barely fucking play than you are, who dedicate your life to it. I've done more in all these games. It's crazy. I'm still putting out content that people are trying to tell you is fake and not real, and that I've cheated. And I don't even fucking play a game like Marvel. You know what I mean? Crazy. Just made all those Marvel 2 videos. Oh, it's not real. Don't watch Clayton's videos. It's not real. He cheated. Ah! So, and you know, like I said, when we talk about the progression of games, and again, the question is like, well, what do you do for the progression of games? And I've talked about before, you know what I mean? The system is one of the only things that you can change in a fighting game. And that's why I said Street Fighter 6, I'm not totally against the system of Street Fighter 6 because that's one of the only new things you can do in a fighting game. But unfortunately, besides the fact that EX moves suck, EX moves, I've said before, are terrible for fucking fighting games. They should have been a one and done thing. And that's only from the standpoint of that every fighting game has to be different. So one Street Fighter series can have EX moves, then boom, get rid of them because they're fucking terrible. EX moves just homogenize games, right? But, you know, whatever. But Street Fighter 6, I'm like, at least the system has potential, but it's so fundamentally flawed because it's like they didn't actually think about the system they were making, and then they homogenized the cast so everyone uses the system in a similar fashion. It's retarded. I mean, Street Fighter 6, it turned out exactly like I fucking said it would. And I'm like, oh man, this game, the system is more important than the characters. You know? It's like, everyone's just gonna do the same fucking shit in this game. It's gonna be played exactly the same way. Every character, you know, my meter versus your meter. Tug of war, my meter versus your meter. All the characters are so homogenized. We all poke in the same way. I have my version of a get off me move. I mean, you could actually think about it almost from a certain standpoint. You know, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. Is a dragon punch even a dragon punch anymore? Or is it just an EX move? And I know, oh, well, you know, he jumped over, made a cross-cut DP. But it's not like it's a reversal anymore without EX meter. You know what I mean? Like, these moves are just becoming different shades of gray. Like, oh, well, Ryu's EX move is a little bit more like a dragon punch than this character's EX move is a little less like a dragon punch, but they still are kind of used in the same. Do you get what I'm saying? It's retarded. You know, it's almost sad. Like I said, I feel like one of the only things that I feel like I can give to the video game community is if I had the knowledge, I would like to make my own Street Fighter game, rebalance all these games, you know, not even just Street Fighter. It could be, you know, Guilty Gear. It could be Dragon Ball, whatever the fuck. It could be fucking random Carnage Revenge, whatever. And it's almost like, I was like, I would put like a stamp on it like Capcom. I made a better game than you. FGC, I'm smarter than you. You know, it's just, I don't know, man. I just see some of these stupid comments, and you got guys that are supposedly community leaders, and they know nothing about the fucking game they're even talking about, dude. Nothing about the series they're talking about. And when I talk about games being intuitive and unintuitive, that's why I say like a game, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here for you for a second. I've said old school Street Fighter is more intuitive, right? Moves generally do what it looks like they do, right? New school games, you know what I mean? You don't even have to fucking hit the person to hit them. And it's like, oh my God, like you're actually doing a math problem. No other fucking fighting games beside these, well, I shouldn't say that. No, these new school games, again, no pants. When you're playing them, you never looked at the cliff notes if you go watch Super Turbo matches to this day. Do you ever see anyone look at the cliff notes? Oh, I got to remember this is plus here, this is minus here, this is plus this is minus this. This is this kind of here, this is this kind of there. These games don't even have time to marinate. The game nowadays, it's a fucking cliff note. Oh, I got to study for the GED test. This is what this character does. This is plus here, this is minus this. I will do this. I am a robot. You know what I mean? These games are like made for fucking robots. There's no interesting interactions in them anymore, right? And talk about being unintuitive. Moves don't even have to hit you. And you'll be like, oh, well, that's unfair, Clayton, because, you're coming from the mindset of somebody that played Street Fighter 2. So, of course, something is going to feel more intuitive to play because it's an old school game. And you know what I would say for that devil's advocate argument? Street Fighter 2 is not the most important fighting game of all time. It's not just one of the most important fighting games of all time. It's one of the most important video games of all time. Basically, all fighting games on some level are based on Street Fighter 2. Even if you weren't alive to experience Street Fighter 2, what you are playing to some degree is based on Street Fighter 2, is based on a series that was at one time one of the most important video games of all time. So if you want to talk about something being unintuitive, what is the foundation that you're standing on? If you're going to say that, right? Like, oh, you only think Street Fighter 2 is intuitive because you grew up with it. You're playing a game that is kind of based off it. So I don't think that argument works either. Anyway, remember, if you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.